Dariana, we call him Day Day for short.
Every day he's hungry for
Shot One Life is presented by Lincoln Coin and Bullion, buying and selling gold, silver, platinum, and palladium bars and coins, and rare and collectible coins. We also buy gold scrap and sterling flatware. If you wish to buy or sell any of these items, please call 402-327-2853 for an appointment. Welcome to One Shot, One Life, helping you win with money, people, faith, work, health, and your hopes and dreams. We help you stop worrying and start winning.
I will not waste my life watching the world go by. I've only got one shot, one life.
And now, welcome your host, best-selling author, speaker, CEO, husband, and dad, Doug Fitzgerald, on 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome to One Shot, One Life, the show where we help you stop worrying and start winning. I'm your host, Doug Fitzgerald. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really deeply appreciate you being here. We also want to welcome everybody joining us on Facebook Live here, 1400 KLIN. Getting us launched, speaking of, the Metaverse is our own Johnny Cadillac producing the show there. So thank you so much, John, for all your hard work. And also, as always, our executive producer here in-house and dance icon, Josh Floyd. Thanks so much, man. We haven't said that for a long time.
I know.
And you got your hat on now?
Yeah. Well, because I haven't tried the powder yet.
I know. Your wife gave you powder for the video.
I know.
And
next week I'm a little nervous.
We're going to have to test it out to see if it works. Mm-hmm. Dampen the shine. Is that what it's supposed to do?
Just knock the sheen off just a little bit.
All right. Well, did you have a good week?
I did. A very productive week because I discovered a setting on my phone.
Oh, good.
Called App Limits.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Because, you can look at the screen time and stuff. Every Sunday morning I get a notification saying, oh, this is your average per day. And I fallen occasionally victim to the death scroll and Instagram reels.
Is that why I haven't heard from you much this week?
Yeah.
You're trying to cut everything out?
Yeah.
I thought you were just trying to ignore me.
Well, I mean, a little bit of that. No. But so I knocked down Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube to 15 minutes a day.
Good.
And I ended up a little bit more productive this week.
And a little more happier, a little more excited. And all that. Good.
Yeah, happier because I'm more productive, and happier because, man, especially Facebook. I try not to spend much more time on Facebook than I have to anyway, but yeah, just taking a little bit of a break from those.
Good.
Nice.
It's good to be back, too. We didn't have a show last week, so this week we're back at it.
Mm-hmm. You've been very busy.
Oh, this whole last week's been nuts. I think I've been the busiest I've been in probably a century. Not century, decade. Century would be a long time.
You're not quite that old.
Not quite that old, although that's my, 112 is where I'm, shooting for. So, but yeah, this last week was really, really busy. Last weekend was awesome. I mean, just an incredible experience. I was able to judge the Miss Nebraska USA pageant and the Miss Nebraska Teen USA pageant. And, we had Erica Etzelmiller in here and Daisy Sutterth, both Miss Nebraska and Miss Nebraska Teen from last year, and they were just so eye-opening as far as the pageant world. And I didn't know anything about it until they came in. But the pageant that they put on is so amazing for these women. It gives them a platform to really serve their communities and serve our state. And obviously the winners will be, traveling around the country as well to serve in the Miss USA pageant when they perform there too as well. So we want to congratulate this year's winner, Miss Nebraska Teen, Natalie Farron Medai and Miss Nebraska, Natalie Piper, both winners this year. And hopefully, we'll have them on the show and to be able to have them share their stories. And also the owners of, I didn't realize this as well, but each state is a franchise. And Van Bros and Associates own them, John Vanetta, Jason Vanetta, and Jennifer Vanetta Fisher. Super people, and I hope to have them on the show as well. Plus, we had a great judge panel. It was so fun. Just great people to be able to interact with, to get to meet, and to work with. So, but again, I am so impressed with the women that compete in these pageants. So we got to interview them and understand what their platforms are, where they come from. A lot of them were just there just to better themselves, to be better at public speaking, to be better in kind of high pressure situations, to present themselves in that way. And it was just so fun to watch. So,
yeah, and I we talked a little bit before the show, and I like a lot of people, I think, have some preconceived conceptions about pageants.
Yeah.
And I kind of had like the idea that it was a little stuffy, and you were telling me that it's not stuffy at all. You as the judges were having a great time, and the ladies were having a great time too, and there's joking, and I love that.
Very tasteful, very respectful of the women. Like you said, my preconceived thoughts about it as well totally flipped around 180 degrees. And
That's great.
I'm really
love
really
to talk
excited
more about it.
Exactly, and have them on the show and be able to talk about it too. So, well, last week, speaking of shows, we had Tracy Morrow on. Tracy is the relationship expert for personal growth and leadership for the John Maxwell Enterprises. She gave us some powerful advice on how to truly have a successful marriage, one that you really love coming home to. And although we talked about marriage, all those principles relate back to having relationships in general. If you didn't get a chance to catch the show, you can check out our podcast. Josh, would you share with everybody how to do that?
Yeah, so if you're familiar with podcasts, it's easy. You just go to your favorite podcatcher and just search One Shot, all one word, One Life, all one word. If you're kind of new to podcasts, but would like to take this opportunity to dip your toe and listen to the best show in podcast verse.
That's what we think.
Yeah. So you can so the big one is Apple Podcasts, especially for iPhone users. It might be already on your phone, but just get on the App Store or Play Store and search podcasts, and you can download any one of them. And then once you have that, just search again, One Shot, One Life, one word, and you can listen to all of our shows since our very first one. Last summer, has it been?
July.
Already? Wow, we're going on a
Getting
year.
there.
So yeah, you can listen to any of our shows at any time at your leisure for the rest of ever.
And if you want to watch us as well, you can watch the video playback on Facebook.
Yeah, we
on
live
our
there
Facebook
forever
page,
too.
1400 KLN. All you have to do is go there for that. Well, today we have an amazing guest joining us in the studio. I've been looking forward to having him in since the beginning of our show back in July of last year. Aaron Davis is a professional speaker, coach, trainer, attitude expert, and he was also a player on the 1994 Nebraska Cornhusker National Championship football team. We met for the first time a couple of weeks ago, had an encouraging and rich time together, and I'm really excited to have him meet all of you listeners as well and really have him share his story and encourage us. He's a thought leader and an expert in the area of attitude and how it impacts every area of your professional and personal life. He's going to share some powerful insight on how to tap into the power of attitude as well. Aaron's also a fellow author. He's got a book out called 10-Minute Truths, which is great, by the way. I highly recommend you go get that. You can go to Amazon.com and get it. And also a brand new book that's going to be released really soon that I'm excited about called Wisdom from the Man with a Mop. It's a book in regards to the story of the principles that his dad taught him, which is really good. And we'll talk about that more in the show later on. Plus, he's also going to share his powerful story about beating cancer, loss, and so much more. So if you've got a question or a comment for Aaron, we'd love for you to join the conversation. All you have to do is call the Rick Stein Recognition Hotline at 402-479-1400. You can also text in, and we'll be monitoring our Facebook feed as well. So if you want to slip in a message there, Johnny will be taking care of that for us. Well, let's talk about some of the shows that we have coming up. Exciting guests. I'm really excited on Saturday, March 26th. Precious Metals Experts, Lincoln Coin and Bullion, our title sponsor. Pat, Courtney, Katie, and the crew are going to come on in, and they're going to be helping us better understand how precious metals, that's gold, silver, platinum, can be a critical part of your overall financial plan. Now, here's the thing. Everybody's talking about inflation now, and what people don't understand is the value of your dollar is decreasing constantly. constantly. That's just the way it's designed. Here's the thing. Gold and silver are God's money. That's what I like to say. They retain their purchasing power and grow over time. And so Pat, Courtney, and Kate are going to come in and talk to us about that. Then on Saturday, April 2nd, New York Times bestselling author and career expert Dan Miller is going to join us. I am really excited about this show. Dan is active in helping individuals redirect their careers, evaluate new income sources, and achieve balanced living. He's a New York Times bestselling author of 3 books, 48 Days to the Work You Love, No More Dreaded Mondays, and Wisdom Meets Passion. He's also been a guest on CBS's The Early Show, MSNBC's Hardball, Moody Midday, The Dave Ramsey Show, and so many more. So we're excited to have Dan in. I want you to listen close to this. If you've ever buried your dreams in an attempt to be practical or realistic, Dan's going to show you how to embrace those very dreams to be the most practical things in your life, to enjoy your life and to really achieve the success that you're looking for. So we're really thrilled that Dan's going to be on the show. All right, well, I want to wrap up the first segment with this thought. Our life on this earth is really short, and we were just talking, Aaron and I were just talking earlier before we started the show, how short life is. And the older we get, the more I realize that time flies by faster and faster each day. This past week, my parents celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary. And their relationship is such a powerful model to all those that come in contact with them. They know no strangers, and because of that, they have a deep and lasting connection with everyone that God crosses their path with. Now, I'm so grateful that they're my parents and that they model for me and my siblings what it means to have a successful marriage and what it looks like for 60 years. I was talking to them earlier this week on their anniversary, and my mom said this. She said, Doug, it's so unreal that it's been 60 years. It seems like just yesterday that we were married. Then I started thinking about my own marriage to Tammy, and it's been over 30 years already. And it seems like I literally have blinked, and our 2 kids went from being toddlers to now being 21 and 24 years old. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that gets easily emotionally stressed out by all that needs to get done in life. So much so that sometimes I let the stress of what needs to get done get in the way of missing the true value of the very moment that I'm in. Just this week, Tammy had to gently remind me to do my best to not let the business of life get in the way of truly missing out on the blessing of each moment that I'm currently in. We are not guaranteed tomorrow, my friends. So let's take full advantage of what we've been given today. I want to encourage you all to be intentional with our relationships, to find ways to share your love and encouragement with each person that you interact with, no matter how easy it is or how difficult it is. Here's a powerful yet simple quote that's on the cover of my personal journal that I write in. It says this: "This is the beginning of a new day. You have been given this day to use as you will. You can waste it or you can use it for good. What you do today is important because you are exchanging a day of your life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever. In its place is something that you will have left behind. Let it be something good." Friends,
Strong.
yeah, we only get one shot at our amazing one life, so let's make every single day count. And that's why I'm so excited for today's guest, because he's going to help us do exactly that. We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by attitude expert, former Husker football champion, and simply an awesome guy, Aaron Davis. His story and wisdom are so powerful, you don't want to miss it. Plus, we'd love for you to join us as well. We are opening up the Rick Stein Recognition Hotline right now, 402-479-1400. And you can also comment on Facebook Live, too. You're listening to One Shot, One Life on Lincoln's #1 news and talk station, 1499.3 KLIN.
One Shot, One Life is presented by Lincoln Coin and Bullion, where we treat each customer with respect and dignity. A customer who purchases $50,000 of gold is not treated differently than a customer selling a gold filling. Every customer uniquely contributes to our business success. You're listening to 1499.3 KLIN. Stop worrying and start winning. This is One Shot, One Life on 1499.3 KLIN.
Welcome back to the show. It's 15 past the hour. I'm your host, Doug Fitzgerald, and we want to thank our One Shot, One Life show partners. What an amazing group of local and regional businesses. We deeply appreciate them. Without them, we can't do this show, and so we're very thankful. Lincoln Coin and Bullion, my trusted gold and silver experts for over a decade. John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, proudly serving Lincoln and the surrounding areas for over 25 years. KC Smile. Dr. Headley and his staff completely transformed my smile, and they can do the same for you. You can check out my transformation at OneShotOneLife.com. And our brand new sponsor that's joining us this week, Youth for Christ of Lincoln, a nonprofit, non-denominational ministry serving over 2,400 young people in the Lincoln and surrounding areas. If you or your business would like to partner with us at One Shot, One Life, you can contact me directly at Doug@KLIN.com, Doug@KLIN.com. Well, today we have such an amazing guest joining us. We're just having a great conversation in between these breaks and just how God's just aligned this whole thing up. Aaron Davis is a professional speaker, coach, trainer, and attitude expert. He was a player on the 1994 Nebraska Cornhusker National Championship football team, which I believe he has his ring on right now, right? Yep. So, plus he's also a fellow radio host for a local sports station here in Lincoln. Aaron equips audiences around the country with tips, tools, and techniques necessary to live the attitude of a champion and to personally and professionally push you to your best no matter what. He's worked with many organizations including Farm Bureau, Goodyear, Cargill, State Farm, Walmart, and many more. Aaron is also the author of 10-Minute Truths and a brand new book that's going to be released any day now called Wisdom from the Man with a Mop, a book based on his dad's inspiring life. Well, Aaron, I want to welcome you to One Shot, One Life.
Good morning. It's good to be here, Doug. I appreciate it, man.
Oh, I am so glad you're here. Seriously, you are the first person, and maybe as we've been talking here about how we feel that God's kind of lined things up, you're the first person that came to mind last year when we started the concept of looking at having this show that I wanted on as a guest. And so I'm just so grateful that you're here.
I'm honored to be here.
I appreciate it. Well, why don't we start out by sharing with our listeners your story? I'd love to hear about how you grew up playing for the Huskers and then how it's led you to be a national speaker and encouraging people and influencing people all over the country.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, Doug, I appreciate being here, man. And Johnny and Josh, Cadillac. The caddy. No, it's a pleasure to be here, man. It truly is, Doug. And to all the listeners, thanks for tuning in. You definitely have an amazing host, and Fitzer. I call him Fitzy or Dougie.
Yeah, that's good.
But it's good to be here. Born and raised here in Lincoln. I want to put something out there real fast, everyone.
Sure. If
they're thinking Aaron Davis, Huskers, Aaron Davis, if they remember me playing football for Nebraska, they're a sick Husker fan. All right, you talking about that phone time, Josh? They're watching way too much football, scanning media guides. I was like an 80th string wide receiver, And some people said I was fast. Nah, I wasn't fast. A brother was scared. Okay, when you have the black shirt, someone 6'3", 6'4", 260 chasing you, you run. All right, so it's more about survival, but it was a great experience. I was born and raised here. Went to Clinton Elementary School.
Yeah.
Then I went to Color Middle School, which is right down the road here, off 48th. And then went to the greatest high school in the world, Lincoln High Links, baby. Yeah. Talk Links out there. And then had a chance to play football for Nebraska. So that was really a childhood experience come true. Doug, I grew up just about 3 miles from the Husker football stadium. Wow. So on Saturdays when Nebraska would play and they would score, you just hear the
yeah.
And we'd be in the backyard outside. To the kids out there, outside is outside where you get dirty,
right.
Grass stains. You came home when the street lights came on. But that was a great experience, man. I'm the youngest out of 6 kids, 4 boys, 2 girls, and had an amazing mom and dad. So married, great wife, 2 boys. One's in college. One's in college. He's a senior at the University of Nebraska. The other one, Aiden, he's in his 2nd semester of law school.
Nice.
At Nebraska. And our baby girl, Naya, she is a senior at Lincoln Southwest, and she's heading UNL as well. So we got a new little dog, man.
I saw a picture.
Yes. We got a new Frenchie, man. My family kept it from me for 2.5 months. They kept that secret from me for 2.5 months, man. And got a new dog a week ago yesterday, and his name is Louie.
Louie. That's nice. I like that.
So, man, life is, like I said, it's like you mentioning, Doug, it's one shot, one life, man, and a number of instances remind that to me. We'll talk about that later, but, it's things have been good, man.
Yeah.
Hard,
yeah.
but good.
Well, the last few years, I know it's been difficult. You've gone through some loss. Obviously, we're going to talk about Louie, and as a new member to the family, that's part of that story.
Yeah.
But you go around the country and you teach people principles about attitude.
Yeah.
And so you do it. That's your business, right? Speaking around the country, and
It is. The speaking business, when I graduated from UNL, my degree is in psychology with a minor in English. And, I had no idea first people even did this. We'd have speakers come into the football team sometimes. And, in high school, you'd hear, speakers that come in. But I didn't know anything about it, had no interest. Well, I didn't think about it.
right.
And Coach Osborne and Coach Brown, as well as Stan Parker. Stan Parker was a former player at Nebraska as well. Really got me introduced to this business. And Penny Hannes, who works for does a lot of work with Coach Brown as well as planning. They all helped me get started in this. My first talk was for a group in Seward, Nebraska with Coach Brown. I think it was like an FCA event or a youth event. And he says, "You want to come speak?" I'm like, "About what? Who? I mean, when you come speak, being part of a championship team, faith, etc." I was like, "All right." So I went and did it, and it was a blast. One of the first talks that someone asked me to do was on dealing with loss all those years ago, Doug.
Really?
A very good friend of mine, one of my best friends since childhood, his name was Mike Pleskotch. And God bless his family, and God rest his soul, was killed, in a domestic violence incident. And someone asked me to come speak about that. It was like maybe 4 months after it happened, in 96. I'm like, no, I'm not going to go speak about something like that. But now I speak about those things a lot, loss, recently more grief, but all about the attitude you take towards those things. And I always tell people I'm not the example, I'm the warning a lot of times, because how I've dealt with loss in the past hasn't always been the best way to deal with loss. Right. But the attitude we take towards it, and I share it with people around the country that we can't control a lot of the what happens to us,
Right.
but we can always control the how we respond. So how we respond to life's ups and downs, success, and as well as failure, that our attitude determines that a lot of the times. So like I said, all those years ago, Coach Osborne opened up a lot of doors for me to get started. And 90% of that time was just high schools and colleges. Now 90% is corporate. But I still speak to a ton of high school and college students. In fact, I fly out Monday to go to Washington and speak for a school just south of D.C. And that'll be about, 1,500 high school students, give or take, and their faculty and staff. Because kids, man, and I know I'm kind of gone over here, but the reason why I still stick in that area and still speak with a lot of kids still, their chalkboards aren't fully written on.
Right.
That hard drive doesn't have a lot of code on it yet, and they can still influence them. And not that you can't with adults, but, as adults, we start getting about that, that 19, 20, 21 years old, we start getting set in our ways a little bit.
Yeah.
We're not as easily influenced. We kind of think we think we have it figured out at that age. At my age now, I'm 48. I'm thinking I didn't know squat at 21,
nothing.
man. I still don't know a lot, but man, I really didn't. Kids, man, are still very impressionable. And you add in technology, like you were talking about, Josh, with these things here, it's tough to be a teenager today, man. Yeah. So you bring it back to the corporate area, especially, Doug, in the past 2 years with the pandemic, mental health, attitudes, a positive attitude is at a premium right now. Because people are stressed, they're burned out, they're scared, they're angry, anxiety's at the all-time high. I'm so glad people are talking about mental health now. Yep. It's not a taboo subject anymore. You look at Simone, the gymnast?
Biles.
Simone Biles. Some people are like, well, just toughen it up. Well, ignorance is thankfully we're starting to put some water on that fire of ignorance when it comes to mental health and burnout. I don't know if you've been some of your listeners been in an airport in the past 6 months, but it's a different airport right now. Flying is totally different. People are on edge.
Yep.
So when I go and talk about attitude, I always say, look, we can't control the what, but we can always control the how we deal with things. So that's what I try to do, Doug, and I love doing it, man. My speeches have definitely changed in the past 2 years because life changes us.
Yeah.
So I'm not speaking about, it's easy to talk about attitude and motivation when things are going good. But what about when life punches you in the stomach and then runs you back over again? You really believe all that stuff? You really have to test your convictions when things are tough. It's easy when things are great.
Right.
What about when life hurts?
Well, your last few years have been tough.
Doug, I tell you, man, these past 2 years, when you think about COVID, 2 years ago this time, Remember, they were shutting down March Madness, the girls' state tournament. I mean, the boys. I think it was the girls. They had people there, and the boys weren't allowed. Am I correct on that?
I think so.
And then the Dallas Maverick basketball game, they just said, folks, you got to leave the pandemic. We just have to shut things down. And I remember Creighton was playing, and they stopped the game at halftime. Yeah. My business on about March 11th, I believe it was, I started getting the calls, Aaron, we have to reschedule. We have to cancel. So my business took a tremendous blow because you couldn't travel. There was no conferences going on. Right. No hotels were open. So that's in 2020. 2021, I'm thinking, okay, it's going to be a better year. We still have the pandemic obviously going on. But then May 3rd of 2021 last year, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And you're talking about a blow. I'm thinking, God, are you serious? I'm 47 years old. I'm like, kids can't. And I was like, why me? Mm-hmm. I'm mad. I'm furious. I'm scared. But here's the thing. Why not me? Who am I to be immune from life's ups and downs and trials and sicknesses? And some of you listeners may be going through something right now saying, why is this happening to me? Why not you? Why do we think, or I'm not saying for everybody, but why would I think that I'd be immune to being sick or to life's trials and tribulations and loss? So I had to start saying, okay, not why me, but what am I going to do about it? It's easy to say why, because why, there's no action you can take with why. But with what means, okay, what am I going to do? It elicits right away, okay, what are my options here? Just sitting back and saying why, it's not going to do much. But when you begin to say what and how am I going to deal with this, that's an attitude shift. Mm-hmm. In football, we would run routes, and if the defense was in a certain way, we'd adjust. We have to adjust our thinking. And so I had to do that. And so June 15th of last year, I had my prostate removed through a process called robotic prosthetic. They remove the prostate from you. So I have 6 incisions across my abdomen. And that was probably one of the lowest points of my life in that I couldn't walk on my own. I couldn't use the restroom on my own. I needed help getting out of bed. And the thing about prostate cancer, for all you listening, this is kind of my PSA for all of you. Please, males and females both, get into your screenings, get to your physicals, because my doctor let me know had I waited longer, the conversation would be a lot different. I was stage 2. Didn't even know it. Had no idea I even had anything. So I'm begging to get in. I missed in 2020 because of COVID. I didn't go to my doctor. But I've been to my physical every year since I was 40. And in African-American and minority males, the likelihood of getting we have a lot more propensity to get it, and it's a more aggressive form. They don't even know why. So had I not gone in, Doug, this conversation would be a lot different if we're having this conversation as far as that goes right now. So I had my procedure on June 15th, and then literally 104 days ago, my father passed away unexpectedly. And I lost my mom unexpectedly in 2014, had a brother that was killed in 2009, and then losing my dad, who was our pillar. And to be honest with you, folks, and Doug and Josh and Johnny, I'm still dealing with that. The reality of losing my father really hasn't even hit me yet. It really hasn't hit me yet. So the talks are a lot different now, man. It's easy to talk about grief and attitude when things are going great, but when it hits you, you really, really have to evaluate what's important. So to the listeners out there, your speaker, the motivational guy, I'm telling you, I get it. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I've been through a lot of grief and a lot of pain, but I'm just grateful and thank God that I'm still here, man.
Well, you've been very transparent. I've been following your story on social media, and you've been sharing your story. You've been very outspoken and transparent about what you're going through, but you're also very encouraging. And so how can people follow you on social media? Because you need to be following Aaron.
Well, if you're on Facebook, if you go to Aaron Davis Presentations, again, that's Aaron Davis Presentations on Facebook. If you're on LinkedIn, just go to my name, Aaron Davis. That's AARON, Aaron Davis. If you're an Instagram person, it's Aaron Davis Attitude Expert. Aaron Davis Attitude Expert on Instagram. If you're on Twitter, if you type in Aaron Davis or AC Davis on Twitter.
I think that's important. So thank you for being transparent, for opening up, sharing about your story. We're going to dig into those principles you talk about and teach with people in the next break or next segment. So, but again, I appreciate you being forthright and transparent to encourage us.
You bet.
And I'm going to talk about a conversation I had with a buddy of mine, knowing that you were going to be on the show. when we come back from this
You bet.
break. All right, it's time to take a quick break. We've been having a great conversation with attitude expert Aaron Davis. When we return, Aaron's going to be sharing with us his proven tips, tools, and techniques necessary to live our absolute best life with the attitude of a champion, even while you're struggling. Plus, later on, we'll learn more about his brand new book that's coming out soon called Wisdom from the Man with the Mop. We have some really good stuff coming up. Stick around. You're listening to One Shot, One Life on 1499.3 KLIN.
One Shot, One Life is presented by Lincoln Coin and Bullion, where we respect our clients' privacy. We discourage walk-ins to minimize customer overlap and fully encourage all customers to call us to schedule an appointment. We operate by appointment only to offer our customers a discreet and confidential transaction. You're listening to 1499.3 KLIN. We have one shot in this amazing one life, helping you make every single day count. This is One Shot, One Life on 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, welcome back. It's 32 past the hour. I'm your host, Doug Fitzgerald. Thank you again for joining us on our show today, One Shot, One Life. We want to welcome a brand new sponsor to the show, Youth for Christ of Lincoln. Pastor Matt Schulte is the executive director. He's an awesome guy. Youth for Christ is a non-denominational, nonprofit organization. They serve over 2,400 youth in the Lincoln and surrounding areas. Now, if you don't know exactly what they do, they've got 3 specific areas of ministries that they work in. One's called Campus Life. It's for teens of middle schools and high schoolers. They also have Juvenile Justice, which works with jailed teens. And then they have Parent Life. They work with pregnant teens. And they do an amazing job and an impacting work in our society here and in our community. I'm also excited to announce today, for the first time, that we just kicked off the very first episode of their brand new podcast called Engaging Today's Teens. Pastor Matt and I equip parents, teachers, and grandparents to help teens navigate through their formative years. And in the first episode, we talk about the importance of encouraging teens. Matt gives us some really practical and effective tips on how to do that. One thing that he strongly suggests, which I completely agree with, is to regularly tell your young people how proud of them that you are. And I'm just excited about that podcast. I'm honored to be the host there. And so they're only about 10 minutes long, so they're great podcasts. It'll come out every couple of weeks, and they'll be really helpful for, like I said, parents, grandparents, mentors of young people. You can check it out by going to yfclincoln.org. That's yfclincoln.org. And we'd also love for you to share that podcast, like it, and subscribe to it as well. And our team at One Shot, One Life is looking forward to building a long and beneficial partnership with Youth for Christ of Lincoln. We want to thank them for sponsoring the show. Well, our guest today is Aaron Davis. If you missed the first segment, I want to encourage you to go to kln.com and listen to our podcast. Plus, you can also listen wherever you listen to great podcasts. Simply use your favorite podcast platform, search One Shot, all one word, One Life, all one word, and there you will find all of our past episodes. Well, Aaron, it's so good to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for being here. I told you before we took that break that I was meeting with a friend of mine this past week, and I was telling him that you were going to be on. He's a loyal listener to the show, and he was so excited to have you here. And so I shared with him just a little bit of your story of what you struggled with over the last couple of years. And he told me this. He said, Doug, I am really excited that he's going to share that experience and wisdom with us, because a lot of times, like you said earlier, we hear from people after they've gone through the fire, not while they're going through the fire. And he just felt that like he was so excited to hear your advice now that you're actually going through these difficult times in life. So let's keep digging into this. I really want to know, how the last couple of years has tested your attitude towards life.
Doug, again, it's a pleasure to be here. Josh and Johnny, thank you much to all the listeners that took your time out of this Saturday to tune in, and keep tuning in to Doug's show. It's an amazing platform to share wisdom, truth, and just life. The past I would say the last 3 years, let's be honest, last 7 years, since I've lost my mom, full disclosure, it's been hard. It's been very rough. And I'm going to encourage you folks out there, if there's something you need to say to someone, say it. We always tend to wait. I'm not saying all of you, but we can tend to wait until it's too late. Because eventually, the last hug is going to be the last hug. The last phone call eventually is going to be the last phone call. We just don't know when that last one's going to be. So relish those. When I lost my mom, the last conversation with my mom wasn't one that was good. And nothing that it was like no argumentative or nothing like that. I've never disrespected my parents, because I was still yes sir, no sir in my house. And because you'd get knocked out, it was respect, But my mom was really concerned about me, because this is 2014. And from 2009 really until 2021, when I lost my dad 103 days ago. And first of all of us have loss. Some more than others, but I can go on and on and on. A cousin that was murdered, shot and killed in Pittsburgh. My brother killed, cousins that were killed. Almost every year there was a traumatic loss. It was just very few of those were just like natural causes, if you would. And sickness and things like that, but they were unexpected, if you would. Right. And my last conversation with my mom was on September 16th of 2014, because she was concerned about me. She knew I was still mourning my brother and a few others I had lost. And I was just in a bad spot. Because, I'd go on stage, everything's fine. Here's your speaker. I put on my mask, everything's good. No, things were not good, in any area of my life as far as that goes. And that last conversation with her, she was like, baby boy, I'm worried about you. I love you. God still has a plan for your life. And I said, Mom, I appreciate it. I said, but Mom, I got to go. And I said, I love you, but I got to go. And I was more concerned about business, and I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to deal with the pain, the grief. And ignoring it doesn't make it better, because eventually it's like, if you need stitches, but you put a Band-Aid on it, that doesn't work.
Right.
That does not work. I was trying to put on Band-Aids in my heart and in my life and in my soul where I needed stitches. I needed a doctor, spiritually, emotionally, in every area of my life. And my mom, I said, I'm going to call Mom tomorrow, the 17th. Well, I got busy. I'm doing business, and, I had some people in town that I was doing business with. And I said, well, I'll call Mom on the 18th, because I had a speaking engagement on September 19th in Wichita, but I was going to leave on the 18th. I'll call Mom. I'm walking off the 6th hole of the golf course. Think about what I just said. I'm walking off the 6th hole of the golf course at Firethorn. There's like 10 missed calls from my dad. Check my voicemail, and he says, son, get to St. E's as quick as you can, because Mama's not doing well. So I frantically try to reach my father back. I reach him back a few minutes later. He says, son, Mom went to be with Jesus. She's gone. I had the 16th to call her back, and the 17th, more than the 18th. But I chose commerce over conscience. Chose business. I'm still working through that, to be quite honest with you, because although it wasn't a bad conversation, I knew in my heart I was just trying to speed through, because I didn't want to talk with her at that time about what I was going through. Folks, pick up the phone or accept the call. Because back in the 80s, in the 90s, those of us, you guys weren't born yet. You guys were younger. But me and Dougie we were pretty courageous. We would actually answer the phone and not know who it was. That took courage. Now we can look at the phone and be like, nah, I'm not doing that. So we can kind of filter through who we're going to pick up the phone with. But that's one call that I wish I would have made. And I'm learning to deal with that. I'm grieving with my father much better, but there are still days. Last Monday, full transparency, I didn't want to get out of bed. This was not 7 days ago, 6 days ago, 5 days ago, actually. I did not want to get out of bed Monday. I got on a plane Tuesday and, was out in Portland and Vancouver and still did business. But when you're going through, folks, man, the lessons you learn, though. And for me, I wanted to be authentic to my audiences, and I don't have it all together. I've got so many blind spots and so many things that I struggle with and battle with. But we're all battling some, man. Yep. People want to hear. See, when you go up there and say, this is for me. I never show pictures of my house or my car. Now, it might be like inside, or how much I do. And some speakers do that. Look, you could do this one day. Well, what's that? I tell you what, at my father's funeral, more money wouldn't make me feel better. A bigger house wouldn't make me feel better. A nicer car wouldn't make me feel better. It's the relationships. So when I'm going through, I want to show the audiences it's okay to not to be okay. It's okay to be pain and have pain, but it's what you do with it. And I haven't always dealt with it the right way. So I share with my audiences a lot of mistakes, but also how you can keep going. And the way you keep going is one moment at a time. Like you said, Doug, we get one shot at this thing. That's all we get. And just as you were talking before the show, something my parents would always say, just coming from a very Christian background family. And one of my favorite passages is Psalms 90 and 12, and I was sharing it with you before here, and it's been on my heart so much. Teach us to number our days, so we have a heart of wisdom. Teach us to number our days. So regardless of what your faith is, this is the reality. All of us are here for a short amount of time, but we don't know when that time's going to be. You go to the grocery store and it says expiration date. None of us have an expiration date. We do. We just don't know. We just don't know. So when you go to the grocery store, it tells you what that expiration date is. So if the cottage cheese says expires on 9/16/2022, you're not going to eat it after that. We don't have that luxury. What we do have the luxury of, though, is this moment. Yep. And just like you said, we got this shot right now. That's all we're guaranteed. Yep. So I like to share with audiences, man, to embrace that, even the bad when it hurts.
When we met a couple weeks ago, you were talking to me about a few steps that you teach people in regards to focusing on what matters most. Can you share more about that? Because now that we know, we're struggling, but how do we do that? How do we focus on what matters most? What are some things that we can do?
The first thing I share when I speak for an audience, a corporate audience, I like to let them know that things are going to change. I mean, the only thing that's constant is change. In fact, one of my favorite quotes on change is by a gentleman named Eric Hoffer. He's been gone a long time. I mean, years and years ago. He was a futurist before we coined the term futurist. And one quote he said about change, he says, and there's two types of people in the world, two types of organizations whatsoever. There's the learners and there's the knowers. He says the learners will inherit the earth, while the knowers will be beautifully equipped to function in a world that no longer exists. Now you think about that. If we go to Best Buy right now and say, you know what? I'd like to get a laptop with a floppy disk in it. The sales clerk would be like, dude, what are you talking about, man?
Where are your CDs at?
Where's your CDs at? Yeah. You got a Walkman? Those don't exist. Well, life is going to change too. And we have to be willing to keep learning those changes in life. Learning through grief, learning through success, learning through as you grieve, learning as you keep growing. So I teach them first thing about change. Then I talk about how do you refuel, refocus, and rejuvenate. You got to take some time to refuel, rejuvenate, and refocus. You have to take time for that. And if you don't take that time to refuel, it's hard to pour from an empty vessel. And even if you overpour, the beauty of that, and we were talking about this in our Trust Equity group, I have a buddy of mine, Jack Russell, has. And that was one thing they mentioned, that if you overpour, the overflow is going to nourish those around you as well. So you can't ever take too much time for yourself. And then I share with audiences too, when you deal with loss, how do you step back in order to step up? You do it one day at a time. Feel what you feel. Sometimes people hear, attitude experts thinking, man, this guy's always in a positive mood. No, I'm not. My family will tell you, no, he's not. That guy you seen on stage, we seen the other guy. I mean, you want an expert on a negative attitude? That's your guy. I've been there before. But, I type my notes all the time, but what I share with the audience, I'm going to make sure I don't forget. The first thing is you got to be aware. You got to be aware of where you're at. If you're lost, you got to first stop and say, okay, where am I at? be aware of where you're at. Then you have to accept where you are. You know, it's like, you know what? This is where I'm at right now. Sometimes we're all in the crappy patch. We're just sitting there and it stinks, it smells, it's bad. But you got to accept that. But then after you do that, you got to take action though. Now you can be aware all you want. You can accept it because there's some people who are aware and they accept the fact that, yep, I'm not doing much and I'm glad with that, you know? But then you have to take action. And sometimes that means getting help.
Right.
And you know what? I started seeing a grief counselor after I lost my mom. And I still talk to my grief counselor. Yeah, this is right. You're a motivational speaker. They're like, but you know what? Think about this. The stigmatism is so misinformed because we get coaches for everything. We have
Exactly.
bankers. We have accountants. You know, think about that. We have doctors. Those are coaches. We don't know it all. But yet when someone mentions the word, oh, that person's going to therapy or counseling, we look at that as a bad thing. No, that's a good thing because they have advice. They have insight. Just like you've done in your past, Doug. You coach people. You teach people. We all need that help. So you got to take action and then you accelerate. You accelerate. And acceleration, now sometimes we think of an airplane. No. Sometimes acceleration is like a turtle. That turtle may be walking slow, but that joker's still moving. You know what I'm saying? So I think our society gets it twisted and confused. And as we're so misinformed, we think acceleration means you're just flying. No. Sometimes we have to slow down in order to speed up.
Yeah.
You know, Coach Brown would always say this in Nebraska. He would say, be quick, but don't be in a hurry. You think about when you're frantically trying to get dressed for something, there's stuff all over the place. But if you're quick, you're more precise. You know, you're taking intentional steps. So you gotta just be aware of where you're at. You gotta accept it. Because a lot of people are in denial. I've lived in denial many times in my life. After you accept it, awareness, exception, and then you gotta take action. And action means sometimes it's getting help, sometimes it's changing your route, like I talked about in football, and then you accelerate. And everyone's acceleration is different. My little suburban truck out there is not gonna go as fast, you know, as a Bugatti. But we're still going.
Yep.
We're still going. But I would take a Bugatti, don't get me wrong.
Me too.
We're just going to keep it real.
Me too.
You
Me
too.
too. Absolutely. Well, hey, if you want daily coaching from Aaron, if you're on Facebook, I'm holding up his book. It's called 10-Minute Truths. This is really good. It's literally 2 pages a day. You can be encouraged. He gives you steps to take. It's just really good. So we're going to take our final break, and when we come back, Aaron's going to share with us about his brand new book called Wisdom from the Man with a Mop. I'm excited for you to hear about this inspirational, powerful book from the life lessons that he gains from his dad, Miles. Plus, if we have time, we're going to ask him the multiplier question, and you're going to want to stick around for his answer. You're listening to One Shot, One Life on Lincoln's #1 news and talk station, 1499.3 KLIN.
One Shot, One Life is presented by Lincoln Coin and Bullion, buying and selling precious metals such as silver, gold, platinum, and palladium. We buy and sell coins and bills, both domestic and foreign. You're listening to 1499.3 KLIN. 1499.3 KLIN.
Well, thank you for joining us today on One Shot, One Life. We absolutely love having you with us. I'm your host, Doug Fitzgerald. We want to thank our title sponsor, Lincoln Coin and Bullion. Pat, Courtney, Katie, and Aaron are a critical part of my financial team, and they're really fun to work with. They seriously are. I have a blast going in there. I know some people say, really, gold and silver and bullion? You have fun? Oh, my goodness, it's one of my passions. And I'm excited for them to teach you about that here later on in the next couple of weeks. But they've been my trusted precious metals dealer for over a decade. They deal with gold, silver, platinum, and palladium. And they also deal with a limited amount of numismatic coins, which means just old coins, which are really cool. And if you are looking to sell your precious metals, they are obviously the place to go in my book. They'll give you their most fair and competitive prices on your bullion. Now, I texted Pat yesterday, and I was just asking him how things are going because inflation's been going through the roof. Gold and silver, their prices have been starting to increase as well. He said that due to the uncertainty of the current economic climate, it's been a feeding frenzy, his words, feeding frenzy over the last 3 days, with silver bullion supply getting really tight. So if you're wanting to get your hands on your allotment of gold, silver, or platinum or palladium, now's the time to go check them out. And they work with you one-on-one. That's all they do, by appointment only, because they want to get to know you, they want to educate you, and they really want to work with you to make sure it's the right decision for you. I highly recommend Lincoln Coin and Bullion. They've been around for over 15 years. For more information, you can go to lincolncoinandbullion.com, lincolncoinandbullion.com. And to set up your appointment, simply give them a call at 402-327-2853. That's 402-327-2853. And obviously, if you go in, tell them you heard about them on One Shot, One Life. Well, coming up over the next couple of weeks, speaking of them, on Saturday, March 26th, Pat, Courtney, and Katie and the crew are going to come in here and educate us about precious metals. Then on Saturday, April 2nd, New York Times bestselling author and career expert Dan Miller is going to be joining us, and I'm really excited about that. He's just a national spokesperson for helping people live and get the careers that they want and live that out in their lives. He's a friend of mine. I got to meet him several years ago. Just a dear person, dear family, and a good friend, and excited to have Dan Miller on to share more about helping people live out their passions through their careers. All right, well, today's show has been really good, and we've been hanging out with attitude expert Aaron Davis. Now, Aaron, you have two books. I shared about the 10-minute truce a little bit earlier, but you got a new book coming out based upon the principles that your dad has taught you, called Wisdom from the Man with a Mop. Let's dig into that. What's that book about?
You know, that book, Doug, I appreciate it. It's about my dad. And, like, again, my father passed away on November 28th. My father was a janitor for 40 years. You know, he cleaned two very prominent businesses here in Lincoln that no longer exist, been sold off. But Weaver's Potato Chip Factory, if you're a long-time Nebraska resident, remember Weaver's. And then Pegler and Cisco. He cleaned both of those buildings for years. And my father taught me those principles of just about customer service, about people, about life, with a mop in his hand. You know, one of the stories I remember during the Bulls run, you know, the Chicago Bulls, when they were winning all those championships, I was cleaning a bathroom and I was kind of upset. I was real upset because I was there cleaning at night and I couldn't watch that Bulls game, you know. And the sink wasn't really done right and there was, you know, water over the mirror. My father comes in, he goes, son, I'm going to ask you something. He goes, you know your name is on that sink, right? I said, Pops, what do you mean? I said, sir? He goes, your name is on that sink. He goes, son, every job you do, your name is on it. He goes, now do it right. I never forgot that. That's just one of many lessons. Another one real quick, Doug, was, you know, there was my father, when he would buffer wax the floor, we'd be walking out of Weaver's and they had those big windows in the front right off Center Park Road, and he'd look in there as he was locking the door, and if he didn't like it, he'd wave us back in because he would do it again. And we'd be like, oh, my gosh, Dad is going. Now, we didn't say that to him, of course. We were like, oh, man. He goes, boys, I'm going to tell you something. He goes, if I don't like it, if I'm not satisfied, the customers most likely aren't going to be satisfied either. He goes, do it right, and do it until it's done right. I'll never forget that. Sometimes you have to go back and do something. If you're not satisfied, what makes you think your customers or the people you're around or support are going to be satisfied with it? So then another quick one's in there. He was a janitor, but his pants were always pressed, his shoes were always shined, his polo shirt was tucked in. When you could smoke in your office back in the day, he would wipe down hundreds of ashtrays. He would have that dust rag in his pocket, meticulously put. He would say, just because you're cleaning a mess, you don't have to look a mess. So that always stuck with me, man.
Yeah. You've got a website called manwithmop.com. People can check that out.
Yes.
On there is a video. It's really great, and you're interviewing your dad.
Yeah.
And so you spend some time really capturing those moments. How are you utilizing those? The one on the video I want to talk about, where he talks about just being nice.
Yes.
I love that. But tell us about those videos, and are you going to utilize those down the road?
Yes, and you know, that book was finished on November 16th, And I did a pre-launch for it on November 16th, and then obviously then Pops passed away, unfortunately, 12 days later on the 28th. But I remember my father, when I took him over and showed him the copy of it, the proof, he just put his hand around my neck and gave me a hug. He says, "Son, I'm just proud of you and I love you. Amen." Because every third word was amen, you know. But I was glad he got a chance to see that before he passed. And so I put the project on hold for obvious reasons. I didn't want to put it out there yet. I wasn't ready. And quite honestly, I'm just getting to the point to where I'm going to get it back out again and start marketing it to people. Because there's a number of people who have bought it already, and they've been very gracious because I haven't sent it out yet. I mean, it's still, I'm working through it.
Yeah.
I'm working through it. But that's going to be out here, though, in the next 4 weeks. I'm going to get it back out to the people. But they have to go with manwithmop.com. They can order theirs as well.
That's good. I'm excited about it. He talked about it's just nice to be nice.
Yes.
Talk about that for a second.
My dad, I mean, it's rare that you can go to a funeral or just when someone passed away, not a single person could say anything bad about my dad. Not a single person. And he just realized it's just nice to be nice. He would always say that. My father was nice to everyone. And so he'd always say it's just to be nice. You know, just simple wisdom and information and knowledge.
All right, we have just about a minute here, and I want to get to this because when we have somebody as powerful as you on the show ask the multiplier questions, my final question. If you knew then what you know now, what is one thing that you wish you'd have known earlier in life that would have made a greater impact on you and those around you?
To have a sense of urgency. I mean, a sense, hence why that Psalms 90:12 teach us to number our days. Have a sense of urgency to live through the pain, through the good, the bad, but keep living. Don't stop, because we don't get days back. We can get money back. We can't get days back.
That's so good. All right, make sure you go out there, pre-order that book. You can go to the website to check it out, manwithmop.com. It's manwithmop.com. Aaron, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been awesome.
Doug, it's been a pleasure, man.
Really
Truly
good show.
Thank you.
Look forward to hopefully having you back someday.
I'd love to, brother.
Back. All right. Well, if you'd like to listen to the podcast of this show or previous shows, you can find them at klin.com. And on all podcast platforms, simply search One Shot, all one word, One Life, all one word, on your favorite podcast service. You can also catch the video playback. It's on Facebook at 1400 KLIN. And you can also go to OneShotOneLife.com. You can check out transformations and more information. I want to thank Aaron Davis, my producers Josh and Johnny. And until next time, take advantage of your amazing one life and make every single day count. We'll see you next Saturday.
One shot, one life.
Thank you for listening to the One Shot, One Life show. Visit OneShotOneLife.com to get a free download of our theme song while you're there. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Go there now. OneShotOneLife.com. And listen every Saturday morning at 11, right here on 1499.3 KLIN.
One life.
Brent Bear's All-Star Panel.